Hello, I'm Diana Kanecki, founder of Kanecki Art, Kanecki Associates Incorporated, and DKA Strategic Planning Incorporated. What I'd like to talk about today is a reflection of the movie V is for Vendetta in the aspect of the formation of hackers and hacking. Most importantly is of the formation of leadership in self. Um, when one has a formation of leadership in self, um, their their leadership in self is no longer guided by fear. To give some common examples, Jim Morrison of the Doors said, "Once you control your fear can no longer control you, and nothing can stop you from doing what you wish to do and what you can do." Um, Malcolm X said, to paraphrase, it is criminal for society not to teach someone to defend themselves. So when someone can defend themselves, they have a right to defend themselves. In addition, um, what I liked about V is for Vendetta is because um, the one thing of the person codenamed V, which was actually that number on the cell Roman numeral 5, but also stood for victory, was um, in the movie. Various songs and pieces of music were banned. And it's interesting. The producers that made V is for Vendetta, um, they chose the 1812 overtures as a way to show the significance of overcoming a great threat to freedom and a great threat to individuality and the ability of all individuals to live, whether they're non-LGBT or LGBTQ. Um, and a thing I remember though is what my grandparents used to tell me was during World War II, whenever there was a battle and the and the Allies won against the Axis and fighting tyranny, the BBC would actually start out their broadcast with the first chord from Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, and they actually would play Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Um, it's interesting how long it'll be before basically we really can play Beethoven's Fifth Symphony again and the 1812 Overture again in the true spirit, because um, part of the reason why is because um, since 1999 there's been an issue about regarding terrorism and terror. And one book I started to reread, let's see if I can find it. Just a moment. Oh, there it is. This is a book entitled "On Who Controls the Internet," and it talks about the internet um, as I remember it from the 90s, and as other people do. Basically, about the first fight we had with the Communication Decency Act, the reason for the need for the Electronic Freedoms Foundation Declaration of Independence of Cyberspace, which I was one of the people who signed, as well as many others, as well as the Constitution of Cyberspace. The reason for that was because our hope of the internet then was basically what was the hope of basically why many of us eventually sort of were called hackers in the 70s by the quote mainframe people because well, part of the reason is because just like in V is for Vendetta, we didn't believe in someone who's a single minded leadership who became more aggressive with more power they had, and also did a false theology as to upon the people. And the main thing back then was that it was thought, well, oh, no one needs a personal computer. No one wants a personal computer. computers are too difficult for these people to understand. Again, I put in quotation marks these people because in the movie V is for Vendetta, the producers did a great thing by showing near the end when the chancellor was finally caught. He finally broke down and actually said what he actually thought of the people who he was supposed to have charge of, and when he referred to them as these people. The reason why I mention this is because even in social service in communities of 100,000 like Kenosha and Milwaukee, Chicago, we've seen again Midwest because that's where I see a lot. Get a lot of actual information. Many of them still think of their customers as these people. Again, they're somehow way below there, and the social are way up here. And actually, what happens when race and sex are used to categorize people and also to use people to produce cheap labor, as Gloria Steinem mentioned at the end of the movie B. There's also an issue of society where that really is not a society. That's actually people being used as cattle. The thing is, when someone has a quality of life, they should be able to live the quality of life fully. They should be able to express what they wish to express as long as it doesn't physically harm someone else and respects constitutional rights. The United States is a constitutional republic, which means that basically the individual rights are protected by a constitution. It is not a democracy where some group can claim religious freedom and a community can do tyranny of the majority to terrorize certain people who don't believe religiously as they do. Why do I bring this up? Because, like in V is for Vendetta, the purpose of the chancellor for Hickey coming to power was unity for strength, unity, and he also put theocracy first and democracy. Now, there's a reason why that was shown, because what happens, it shows what's the first priority, what's the second priority, but the thing is, both of them were wrong, because what happens if you have a theocratic society, then it comes out to what people ran into during the Middle Ages and during the 100 Years' War and other bad events in human history, as well as the Holocaust and others, where people who don't believe a certain way are persecuted, and also even if they do try to believe a certain way, their quality of life is held way down, because basically they're not deserving of a quality of life as to certain believers due to whoever controls the theology or the tyranny of the democracy. That's why the idea of a constitutional republic was set up for the United States. Another point is, though, is whenever the two words used, like if someone were to say, okay, well, someone would say, like, for a hospital, we are a religious hospital versus a hospital that uses religious principles. Which one is a professional hospital? It's the second, because a hospital should come first, because a hospital means medical professionals and professionals who don't let their bias or their individual beliefs interfere with the treatment of their patients. For example, a doctor will treat a patient even though a patient may be of a different faith, may be LGBTQ, but that patient will be treated with the same sincerity, kindness, mercy, as well as other patients. I've seen hospitals where they haven't done that. And it's not just an LGBTQ issue. It's like in V is for Vendetta. The people, before they finally were able to separate it, they had to put on this mask walk out on the final night of their captivity. But the biggest point in that last scene was the military, because the military realized the chancellor has said that basically there's going to be an attack. And at first the command said, well, the enemy is approaching. They didn't know who it was. They're coming, 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 coming. And finally what happens, one of the ground commanders realized the people are not the enemy. The people should never be the enemy. The military should never fire on its own people or attack its own people. That's when the first spirit of democracy in a republic was reinstilled, and it went showed in the movie. When that happened, when the commander realized and the people were able to go through and move forward to Trafalgar Square, they were able to take off their masks. And the second point was basically when Natalie Portman's character was told, well, don't do this, don't. We'll work out one other way. We'll work out another way. We'll work. There are times for when half measures are over. You have to act. Like for example, during the 1970s, I was a teenager then, and the computer revolution started. I was one of the fortunate ones. I actually worked on a computer when I was 7 years old, a GE mainframe, which we had a teletype link at the house, and a teletype Model 33 with a paper tape reader, and I was able to program in BASIC. But the thing is, my parents, just like the parents in Natalie Portman's character in the movie, my father was an executive, my mother was a teacher. However, also they were very much in the humanities too. They appreciated art, they supported art, and also they understood what is the role of the humanities in society and what is the role of. So I mean, and the thing is, in the 70s things were moving, but the thing is, they were moving fast enough because the mini computer was supposed to be this last point. There was people only only mid-sized businesses needed computers. So that's why the computer revolution started. And part of the thing with the computer revolution, many people, as Bill Gates would recall, ask for manuals on how to do things. So they play this manual game, like you mentioned. They give you this manual and see if you could do it. Then once you do it, they give you a second manual and they realize that you needed to do this. Rather than tell you, well, you need to actually know a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Well, that's eventually why people became hackers, because they tried to work within the framework of the quote mainframe priesthood, mainframe theology back then. Just like people try to work through the framework of the religious freedom group that some of them are single-minded and get more aggressive with the more power they maintain for getting the United States as a constitutional republic. But as we in the 70s tried to work within the framework and were given obstruction games and everything, we eventually did exactly like Natalie Portman's character did. We eventually learned to develop an attitude not to have fear. That sure, we didn't know what was going to come next with what we wanted to do with trying to use computers and get computers used, but we knew we'd find a way. Somehow we'd find a way. It wasn't basically, but it wasn't by selling out. It wasn't by being untrue. It was by loyalty, but also it was tested. And part of the thing is, when people talk about hackers today, I mean, in a society that there has to be a need for hackers, as there has to be a need for people that work outside of the government too, because hackers in the 70s helped basically break the mainframe control and get computers so everyone could use it, and also to spread knowledge, basically the same way that knowledge was spread when Martin Luther was able to convert the Bible from Latin into German, which was the native language, and then the Bible was converted into other languages, which allowed people who weren't language scholars to examine, criticize, debate fairly. Whereas some of the scholars before then who were debating wouldn't debate fairly. So that's where hackers in ethical hacking, gray hat hacking are good. White hat hacking means, well, testing systems, see what you can do, and that's what we did. We we as white hat hackers, we took a system and we said, okay, well, how can we make a computer that run a lot of the programs we run on a mainframe, so we can run it in our house, and basically, and how can we run some games so we can run it in our house, so we don't have to run on a mainframe or something else, and that's where a lot of companies formed, like Atari, Apple, others. So hacking is not a bad word. However, um, various types of medias, as was shown as being for Vendetta, where it actually did show how a corrupt media process was used to subvert information, and it wasn't as simplified as the communists originally did. It is very advanced because, like Natalie Portman's character knows, like when one person kept blinking their eyes when she was talking about something, knowing it was a matter of understanding body language and body motion. So um, the thing is, um, whenever you do something, eventually once you decide on something that you really believe in, you're going to be tested. And the thing is, if you can be tested past the point of not have fear, you will be able to do it. You won't have anyone able to stop you. Not having fear doesn't mean that you don't know what the next step is. You may not know that, but the thing is, by lacking fear, you also gain confidence. You know that you'll figure something out, and also you know that friends you work with will help you figure something out too. Because the most important thing about having fear is also you have the capacity to make friends, and actually true friends, um, not what people call friends, but actually true friends. Those who are there, who watch your back, who are your wingman, and who will be there. So um, when you see different things in the news, evaluate carefully and evaluate the point of view. Don't just watch one news channel. I mean, I like to read different papers. Um, I like to watch Fox News. I like to watch MSNBC. I like to watch CBS. But I do that for a reason because I want to see on the same story how is it reported. And when I sift through and find out what's common and what things are embellished or added from different points of view, then I can sort of get an understanding about where the story is leading to. Um, Also, it's important to hold journalists to responsible standards. Like Walter Cronkite followed responsible standards, Edward R. Murrow followed responsible standards. But if someone's going to come on and spout hate and that's not journalism. Journalism is a critical review and a critical understanding. And if someone does have a bias towards an object, towards what they're reporting, then that should be told to the audience immediately, and there should be a banner saying that, and every so often should say, this person is saying this from this point of view. Um, Lastly, um, when you take a challenge, you you're going to have fear. I mean, and and it's like the movie Vietnam for Vendetta. People had fear. They didn't like what the government was doing, but they still were afraid to do it. And it's also like many LGBTQ people discovered a long time ago before the Supreme Court decision. You can try to live within the society and try to, well, by by day you live male and then by night you live female. You work male and you live female when you're not working. Okay, well, many of us have tried that. Many of us have done that. We've had pain and anguish. We've had emotional issues from that. And no one should have to live a double life on that. Um, that's part. That's another part of not having fear. Um, the biggest part of people fear that people will fear and test you is also still comes from the movies when Natalie Portman's character was sentenced to be executed. One person said, "Well, we just need one piece of information, just one piece of information. I can let you go." And she said no. And then finally it came up to say, "Well, do you understand that we have to do this?" He says, "Yes, I acknowledge it." And but she said, and they said, "Well, will you still, will you give us information?" No, and she didn't. The way other societies or other social service will do that with people that where they make them as cheap labor or so is they will set them up in an apartment, but then the moment they get their own mind, speak their own mind, they'll threaten to make them homeless. They'll threaten to throw them on the street. They'll threaten to throw them into a jail for being a vagrant. And and the thing is, there when you don't have fear and you do have true friends, you all those things you'll find out don't work. And also you'll find out the things where people try to have you overspend or overbuy don't work as well. Um, so let me know what you think. I'm on Twitter, Diana1A, and I always prefer to receive messages by Twitter, but I'll try to answer messages other than Twitter as fast as I can. So um, let me know what you think.